Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we'll be taking an in-depth look at EPC mining. This will include everything from builds, gameplay tricks, some practice methods, and even some tricks for EPC mining in co-op with the help of your fellow dwarves. But we aren't learning anything sitting around talking. First, let's head over to the equipment terminal and look at some of the different builds that complement the thin containment field upgrade, which is the tier 5 upgrade that allows us to mine. So let's talk about speccing the EPC for a mining build. Now, if we want to mine with the EPC, there is only one necessary upgrade, which is in tier 5, thin containment field. This upgrade is unlocked at level 18, so it's absolutely impossible to mine with the EPC before level 18. That being said, this is the only upgrade required to mine with the EPC. So barring anything else, this upgrade will allow us to mine. However, there's a lot of upgrades in this that are completely worthless and basically give us only one choice when it comes to upgrades. So let's look at that now. Starting with the first tier, we have increased damage on normal shots, total ammo, or higher damage on charged shots. Now, what this doesn't tell you is that the thin containment field blast whenever you shoot your shot out of the air does not count as a charged shot. So taking this damage upgrade does absolutely nothing for us if we are using this weapon correctly the way we build it. So really this brings us down to two choices: 25% more damage or 24 more ammo. Now assuming we're detonating the TCF blast every time, we're not going to get much use out of normal shot damage. And while I do usually use a few normal shots in my gameplay, I would take more thin containment field blasts every time. Now in the next tier, we have two more upgrades that are completely worthless. Charged effect radius, which once again does not affect our blast when using thin containment field, and once again charged area damage, which once again does not affect our mining blast. So that leaves us with one option, which is normal projectile velocity. Now here's the tricky thing: if you haven't been using this upgrade up to this point and you have been using thin containment field, you may be a bit thrown off by the normal projectile speed if you were using one of these useless upgrades prior. So it may take some time to get used to, and I apologize that you have thrown yourself a bit. But that's the obvious choice. Now in the third tier, this is where really all of our options are. Mainly between these two upgrades, but let's talk about this one first. So this allows our weapon to cool faster whenever it overheats. Now in a perfect world, we will never overheat our weapon. However, compared to the other two upgrades, this is not worth it at all. So let's look at the other two. We have improved charge efficiency for less ammo consumption on charge shot, and crystal capacitors for much faster charging speeds. Now this is where you'll make choices based upon what overclocks you have. If you have no overclocks, you should go for improved charge efficiency, and if you have one of the two overclocks we're going to talk about today, you could potentially get away with running crystal capacitors. However, your ammo economy will suffer, so we'll leave this blank for now and come back to it when we talk about overclocks. And in the next tier, we once again have heat buildup. However, instead of cooling down faster this time, it allows us to hold a charge shot for longer without overheating. Now, unfortunately, our other choice here is ammo. So unfortunately, once again, it's kind of no contest, as being able to hold a charge shot is not nearly as valuable to us as being able to do more charge shots. So we're going to take ammo there. So this is what it comes down to: fuel efficiency or crystal capacitors. Now, if you're confident in your ability to gather nitra quickly and play missions quickly, you may be able to get away with crystal capacitors with no overclock. However, I highly recommend that you stick with improved charge efficiency until you get the overclock that we're going to talk about. So, with this build and no overclock, it only takes us 7 ammo to detonate a TCF blast, 6 ammo for the charge shot, and 1 normal shot to detonate it. But now let's start talking about overclocks. So there's only 3 overclocks that are applicable to the TCF mining build. That's magnetic cooling unit, energy rerouting, and heat pipe. So starting with the least useful, we're going to look at magnetic cooling unit. This gives us a slightly faster cooling rate and slower heat buildup when fully charged. So essentially, this is doubling down on the upgrade that we don't pick in tier 4. This will allow us to hold a charge shot longer and allow our gun to cool down faster between charge shots. It's not entirely useless, but it hardly does anything for us overall. Use it if you have it, but if you have either of these other two overclocks, you're going to want to go with them. So moving up in ideal overclock, we have energy rerouting. This will give you charger speed and more ammo. This is a very good clean overclock for TCF mining in the beginning. So you will want to keep the same build as you would with no overclock, so you retain your 7 ammo per TCF blast build. However, this will allow you to charge much faster than you would without it, giving you an additional 50% charge speed. Is way better. And if you really want to go balls to the wall on speed, this is the most charge speed you can possibly have. However, it's not much of an improvement over our final build, and it takes 9 ammo. So unless you are very, very fast and very ammo efficient, this is probably not a good idea. Now, our final overclock, heat pipe. Heat pipe reduces our charge shot costs and increases our charge speed. This frees us up in the third tier to take crystal capacitors instead of improved charge efficiency. As you can see, with heat pipe and the ammo economy upgrade in tier 3, we're only using 5 ammo per charge shot. And we're willing to make a compromise here of faster charging speed in exchange for a little bit less ammo economy. So, like with the other builds, we should take 7 ammo per charge shot to do a TCF blast. However, our charge speed is massively increased. It's almost as high as we are whenever we're using energy rerouting, only 50% less. But this doesn't cost 9 ammo. This only costs 7, and it's very nearly as fast. So to wrap things up with a nice little bow, the best possible build you can do is heat pipe with 2 all the way down. This gives you an excellent blend of charge speed and ammo efficiency. However, I will show off all of the max builds, such as the max ammo efficiency build and the max charge speed build. But just remember, heat pipe is what you're looking for, and this is the spec that you'll use. So now that we've gone over speccing our weapon, let's talk about how to actually use it effectively. Now let's start with the very basic fundamentals. To make a thin containment field explosion, we have to shoot a charge shot while it's flying through the air with a normal shot. This can be done at variable ranges based on how long you delayed the normal shot, but if it's shot too quickly, it can even injure the user. Your best bet for early game EPC mining is detonating the charge shot about half a second after it leaves the weapon. However, not every mineral vein is going to be that close to you, so eventually it will benefit you to learn distant timings. So by watching our reticule and waiting for the red arrows all the way on the edges to illuminate, we know when a charge shot is ready to be fired. Because if you hold a charge shot longer than you need to, you generate heat. And if you hold it for too long, you will overheat your weapon and be unable to follow it up with a normal shot. So it's generally a good idea to acquire your target, wait for the red arrows to illuminate, release, and then fire your normal shot at an appropriate time. That being said, the timing can take some time to get the hang of. So moving on from the fundamentals, let's try to actually destroy something with this blast now. Now on a fundamental level, the hardest way to EPC mine is when you're aiming directly at what you want to mine. Because if you shoot your normal shot too late, you aren't going to connect with a charge shot. You have to do it much earlier than you would otherwise. And this can also result in you not getting the entirety of your target, or maybe not any of it if you detonate it too early. So, ideally you want to aim past or parallel to the object you want to destroy. Just like this. Now the fine line for doing this strategy effectively is how close you get your charge shot to the object you want to destroy. Because it's very easy to get it too close and have your charge shot break when colliding with the object. You really want to get it into the Goldilocks zone where it travels very close past it but doesn't collide with it. That way if you detonate your shot early or late, you still get the majority of what you were wanting to mine. The range on the explosion is much more forgiving than you might think, so if you need to, aim far away from the target and rein it in from there. You don't have to graze it as closely as you might think. Now let's move on to an example with a more tangible result. So let's say we want to EPC mine this vein of Morkite. This angle is the worst possible angle to attack it from. What we want to do is fire parallel to the vein. However, we have this salt crystal on the way on the backside, so we want to avoid that as well. This can be done by obviously utilizing the range of the TCF blast and flying it far away from the vein, but we're still able to catch most of it in the blast. And had we detonated that a little bit later, it still would have collided with the vein, as it wouldn't have hit a wall or any other surface before we had a chance to detonate it. And one more example, we can very quickly mine this vein of gold by doing our lineup, parallel to the vein, aiming away from the wall, and timing the blast. Next, I'll show you every viable EPC build and also the maximum builds for each stat. So here's your basic EPC build. Assuming you have no overclocks, this is what you'll want to be running. However, with the base charging speed of only 100% and only getting 24 blasts, it does leave a lot to be desired. However, your alternative option is charging much faster and getting fewer blasts. So personally, I think this is the way you should run it until you get a hold of one of the better overclocks. And while the charge speed isn't unbearably slow, it is definitely very different from what I'm used to personally. So look at it this way, you've got a lot to look forward to with getting overclocks for this weapon. Next we have our max ammo build. This utilizes heat pipe and doubles up on the ammo efficiency by also taking the ammo efficiency upgrade. Thanks to heat pipe, we do have a little bit more charge speed, and we get all the way up to 33 blasts with this fully upgraded. While the charge speed is still pretty painfully slow, it is quite a bit faster than the stock charge speed. And considering the massive jump in ammo efficiency, assuming heat pipe is the first overclock you get and you want to run it like this and you aren't too bothered by the charge speed, this is technically the most efficient EPC build you could ever get. However, personally, I don't think ammo is too much of an issue with EPC. Considering how quickly you can gather nitra, I think your priority should be using it quickly and effectively with the charge speed upgrades. Next we have the balanced build, which utilizes heat pipe for the fuel efficiency, and also takes crystal capacitors to offset the charge speed. This is my normal EPC build. I run this for quickly mining, but also being semi-ammo efficient. Obviously I'm a bit biased as I'm much more comfortable with this spec and I feel like I can use it much more effectively with fewer misses. However, my unbiased opinion is this is also the best statistical balance. With some fuel efficiency and a lot of charge speed, it's hard to go wrong with this build. Unfortunately, it does require heat pipe, so until you get that overclock specifically, you may have to run one of the others. And finally, we have the maximum charge speed build. This is an extremely ammo hungry build, however it does have the fastest charge speed out of all of them. Issue being, it's only 50% faster than our balanced heat pipe build, which is 325%, whereas this one is 375%. You have to sacrifice 4 additional blasts to get this increased charge speed, and personally I find it to be just a little bit too fast. However, my muscle memory is calibrated for 325 charge rate, and this is 375, so once again, if I wasn't biased towards my current build, I could probably get to a point where I could use this faster and more effectively. However, it is a very, very ammo hungry build, so keep that in mind. And for our last section on the topic of mining, we'll talk about co-op EPC mining. So up to this point I hadn't mentioned it, but not only normal shots can set off the EPC blast, any projectile in the game can detonate the EPC blast. This includes Mactera shots, Menace spray, acid spitter projectiles, or any attack from your teammates, including bullets and other projectile-based weapons. So if you got a really tricky spot you need to EPC mine, you could always get some help from a scout with a sniper rifle or a gunner with a revolver to get a crossfire on the position and detonate it exactly when you want to. It's a little convoluted and hard to set up, but man does it look good in execution. Moving on now, we'll go over the combat applications of the EPC. The method remains the same. Fly the charge shot over the target or parallel to it, and detonate it when it's passing by. The important thing about the EPC blast is it doesn't matter how much of the enemy is in the sphere. If it's got even a little bit of its hitbox inside of it, it will take the full damage. The TCF blast does 240 damage as fire. This is important for a couple one-shot thresholds we'll go over in a moment. But basically, anything less healthy than a glyphid guard will be instantly killed if it's caught in the blast. A few other notable enemies that can be one-shot by this is glyphid slashers, Mactera trijaws, and Corona younglings. And since the blast does fire damage, it's able to delete environmental hazards that are susceptible to fire, most notably the gas clouds left behind by Praetorians and oppressors. But overall, that's all I have for you today. I hope this video has helped you better understand the EPC and set you on the right path to using it more effectively for mining and combat. Before we go, I would like to say this will be my last week full-time streaming on Twitch. We'll be going back to part-time streaming next week, so if you'd like to catch me live for the last week with the most time available, now would be the time. We also have a Discord community if you'd like to join that, but if none of that piques your interest, as always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.